Welcome to Busy 405. This is Team 8's final video project. Over the past few weeks, we have been studying the target behavior known as social loafing. Social loafing refers to the concept that people are prone to exert less effort on a task if they are part of a group versus when they work alone. The opposite of this phenomenon is social facilitation. Our goal is to implement changes within one student organization and one classroom group project to measure the quality and quantity of the work contributed by each member. Let's go ahead and dig into these experiments. The Board of Directors for the Student Alumni Association is a group of 15 undergraduates who plan events for the entire student body. They meet weekly to brainstorm ways to engage students. Our initial observations and surveys conducted with the entire group revealed significant social loafing and the resulting lack of productivity. A select few members spoke substantially more often than everyone else on the board, while others essentially just listened or agreed. There was also huge fixation on ideas. Identifying these two key issues, our main goal for this intervention was to both increase member participation while decreasing the demonstrated conformity. So we decided to split them into 3 groups of 5 because we believe the social loafing may have been caused by the large number of members in the group. During the subsequent 2 meetings, we each observed an individual group as well as the entire group once they reconfigured and noticed a number of improvements. We tried to incorporate a good mix of extroverts and introverts to make the groups desirable. When we observed these smaller teams, we saw an increase in cohesion and transparent communication. More people in the smaller groups were participating, and almost everyone's voices were being heard in separate discussions. Each of these 3 groups chose a section of the 2016 SAA barbecue planning and got to work. One took charge of the marketing, another food vendors, and the last was in charge of entertainment, including booking a band. It was amazing to observe the differences between the 3 small group meetings filled with chatter and discussion, which vastly differed from the larger group setting where one person talked at a time. We noticed that groups tended to have an unspoken leader emerge, and in every group it was a more tenured individual. In fact, they were even instinctually outlining SMART goals together. We believe that this was due to putting them in charge of a specific aspect of the project and giving them more autonomy and responsibility to a smaller group of people. The introverted members not only had more opportunity to contribute, but felt pressured too. Our ensuing results over these 2 meetings were apparent. We observed a lot of benefits that we discussed in class about small groups and goal setting in teams. More people engaged, a wider range of ideas were generated, and people were more likely to further discuss an idea rather than immediately agree. The 2 meetings which were intervened in ran longer than the initial observations. However, we saw this as a good indication of the increased discussion and more extensive planning. After hearing back from the Student Alumni Association, we learned that this year's barbecue was more successful than any they had ever put on in the past, with nearly 100 more attendees and 30 more memberships sold compared to last year.
For our second intervention, we decided to target a smaller class project group because social loafing tendencies tend to be fairly common even within small workplace teams and society as a whole. For this reason, we felt that it was necessary for us to further investigate this persistent issue and to find ways to effectively change this behavior within small teams. Our goal for this group was to implement a motivation strategy that would increase overall group productivity. Using previously gathered data, we were able to identify that the problem found within this group was that the group was not being optimally rewarded despite the level of performance and effort exerted by each individual. This was due to a social loafer within the group. We identified this individual by gauging the quality and quantity of work and the ideas that this individual had contributed to the project thus far. In order to reduce the social loafing tendencies of this individual and to increase overall group productivity, we determined that we needed to implement strategies that would help us bridge the P to O link within the EPO model, which in turn would lead to a greater valued outcome for the entire group. To do this, it was decided that only those in the group that effectively performed would get rewarded, meaning that now, a reward or grade would be dependent on performance, and if each individual did not perform, they would risk being fired from the group. To implement this strategy, we brought up this idea of firing a group member and explained that everyone would be assigned an equal role within the team and that individuals would remain in the group based on their performance. To measure performance, we set specific deadlines that needed to be met by each individual, guidelines for the quality and quantity of work that should be presented, and kept records of group meeting attendance. After introducing these strategies, we found that loafing tendencies greatly decreased and all group members valued the final outcome, meaning that by implementing our strategy, we were able to effectively bridge the broken P to O link by making rewards dependent on performance and consistently rating each individual's performance. In the end, as a whole, our group concluded that the implementation of smaller groups and the added motivational factor that we used to influence behavior successfully improved productivity and lessened social loafing among group settings. Based on our data, gathered through a survey that we handed out before and after, people on average were more satisfied with the objectives, cohesiveness, and productivity of their new groups. In fact, overall satisfaction increased from approximately 70% to around 92%. Conclusively, to prevent social loafing